Welcome to Warfighter Advanced, Coming Home at Last, a podcast by and for veterans. Warfighter Advance is an organization whose mission is the successful reintegration of every warfighter. Hi, I'm Michael Arndt, a Vietnam combat veteran and a member of the Board of Directors of Warfighter Advance. Welcome to the Warfighter Advance podcast, Coming Home at Last. Joining me today is Thom Burnett. Thom is an alumnus of the program, and he is also now a mentor in the program. Welcome, Thom.
Thanks, appreciate that.
To begin with, Thom, talk about your military experience and your current profession.
Absolutely. I've had a little bit of an odd military experience. I started out in the reserves, was a direct commission when I was finished with medical school and starting up my emergency medicine residency. So I knew that I wanted to serve, but I wanted to have a little more control over my military career and kind of where it went. And so I actually did emergency medicine and specialized in tactical, operational, and disaster medicine. So knew that I was going to want to integrate that stuff into what I did in my career. And it served me pretty well. I ended up working as the battalion surgeon for the CBRNE Incident Response Force in my reserve status, and then ended up later on converting over into the intelligence community to do various and sundry things related to those topic areas. And it's been an interesting ride. It's led me to multiple years of active duty assignments to support various and sundry bad things in the world. But it's actually been a pretty exciting career and has postured me to be in a position where now, after 20 years of emergency medicine in the trauma centers and working in those environments, I was able to shift over, and now I am a government civilian. I serve as the chief scientist and the senior defense intel analyst, covering down on medical intelligence topics and topics related to intelligence support for biodefense. So a lot of interesting opportunities to help protect our folks and provide force health protection and threat warning from the intelligence space. So it's been a full circle, and being able to give back to the community and using some of the experience in the emergency department to really see what we can do to make folks more aware of future threats.
So how did you hear about Warfighter Advance?
So, obviously in the emergency department itself, there's a lot of day-to-day experiences where no one comes to the emergency department on a good day. It's really a bad day for everyone, and some of those bad days are worse. Over my 20 years, certainly saw a lot of trauma, a lot of bad things that happen to good people, car wrecks, stabbing, shootings, things that happen to kids. And a lot of that you just learn to kind of deal with, or at least you tell yourself you deal with it, because that's what we do, and you're supposed to be trained to do that. But I also did some other things related to law enforcement, providing medical support for local, regional, state, and even federal SWAT teams and special response units, which led me to my time with the Virginia State Police as a volunteer and as a physician embedded with their SWAT team, which on that day in April in 2007 led me into Virginia Tech, into the buildings. I was a physician on scene and going through the rooms with the team after the shootings. And a lot of things you see, and a lot of things you see in combat that I feel like I can wrap my head around, but that was something I couldn't. At the time, there wasn't a lot of time to really think about that with the community, because the week that Virginia Tech shootings occurred, I was notified that I was going to Afghanistan. So fast forward a couple of months, and I was in Afghanistan, and I was the chief medical officer in charge of the detainment facility in Bagram, which was at the time a little bit of a blessing. I didn't necessarily see it that way, but now looking back on it, I faced the enemy every single day, but in a different way than most of our soldiers and most of my brethren and sisters do. And having the ability to face the moral injury of weeks past and turn it into trying to represent the goodness and what is right to folks that maybe never saw that, never knew that, or were in a different position. It was a unique experience, and I think it in some ways allowed me to cope with that situation until fast forwarding in my career, I got to a point where I just couldn't. And I like to talk about how we just take these experiences and as soldiers, we pack them into our rucksack and just keep pushing and pushing and pushing to see how much we can get in there. And as long as we continue to march, things are fine. But everyone hits a point, and you don't always know when it is. And so the analogy I use is the rainstorm that soaks the pack, and that's not something I expected. So we were in the middle of COVID. At the time, I was the Deputy Surgeon General for the Defense Intelligence Agency, and things seemed fine, but I had a lot of coping mechanisms and support taken away because of COVID, because of the job I did. I was separated from family for 6 months. I had to be isolated from everyone else. So no one was allowed to be in my space because we didn't want to. I was in charge of our operations and response during that time, and we didn't want to cross-contaminate and get the Surgeon General and I both sick, and then no one was looking out for our team. So going 6 months without human contact, going 6 months without being able to see my wife and kids, even though I knew they were about 3 hours down the road, I think that took a toll. And I look at the times when I'm busy and I have a mission and in the ER and it's crazy and hectic, but that chaos is a drug too. That adrenaline keeps you going, keeps you moving, and keeps you from thinking about all the things that you faced and had to deal with. And so suddenly I found myself alone with my thoughts, really alone with my thoughts for several months. And so to try to stay as busy as I possibly could, because the demons came out at night, and the demons come out when it's quiet. And so all of those things that I pushed into that rucksack over the years, they came out. Luckily for me, I had a Surgeon General who was a psychiatrist and was able to help me recognize some issues that could have been a lot more problematic had we not identified them. Got me in touch actually with Mary, and I started talking with her, which really, again, helped me get through things. I mean, I was getting help from her. I had heard a little bit about Warfighter Advanced because of my interactions with Mary, Doc V, but it wasn't until the following year when I transitioned into my civilian job and really started adding just increased stressors and just seeing a lot more problems on a global level, that things really started to hit my moral injury thermometer, I guess, and pegged it out. And I went hard down. I mean, it just I struggled a lot with just trying to find a sense of what is right again. And I also had no longer had that outlet of helping people on a daily basis in the emergency department, and just having that challenge of what is my purpose, and how can I cope with all these things that are going wrong in the world, and feeling like I have a little bit of a responsibility in my role to do something about it, but yet feeling helpless because in the end I don't have that control. I think a lot of those things really hit me hard, and it got to the point where Mary and I both realized that something dramatic had to happen, something had to change, and so I came to Warfighter Advanced Evo 27 back in 2022, November 2022.
What happened when you got to Evo?
I came in kind of wide-eyed and adrenaline pegged to the max. I think I always thought that I had been anxious, but I don't think I truly knew what anxiety was until that point in my life. But I got here not really knowing what to expect and not really knowing if I needed to be here, or I think a lot of stigma that's attached to seeking help and recognizing that there's a problem. A lot of identifiers that are placed on those who do, or those who have gone through the things that we have. But it's not normal to see the things that we see. It's not normal to see dead kids, It's not normal to understand the atrocities that happen in the world by seeing them firsthand, whether in videos or intelligence reporting or whatever is going on in the world. That's not normal. So when we have difficulty processing that's also not normal, but it's normal for us, and because the alternatives are to not care, to not deal with the problem, to not use that stressor to become stronger. And I think for me, it was recognizing that I don't want to take a pill or numb that in a way that I can't process and think through how I'm going to handle this situation. It felt horrible. I didn't want to feel like that anymore. I didn't want to feel anxious and scared, and I can't sleep, and I'm constantly in a state of stress. But the alternative didn't look really great either, right? Taking all that away, taking away my ability to reason through, because over my career, that has served me very, very well to be able to think and process what's the next step, what's the next step after that. But to lose that tool, to lose that weapon, would have been devastating. And it took a bit to get here, but once I got here and saw I was not alone, and there were other people with their own demons and their own struggles, for whatever reason, and whatever it was that set their inability to be able to process and deal with the stressors at hand, we were all in the same place in many ways. We got there differently, but we were dealing with something similar. And to also look out and see folks that had come back and had survived and had gotten through there and come out the other end, still dealing with the same demons, but they had more tools and they had more support. That was something that I saw pretty quickly after getting here, and that was something that I wanted. And so really, really just did tremendous things for my life and where I am.
And now you've come back and you're serving as a mentor for other members of the Warfighter Advanced family. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, and I think there's a few things at hand with that. I mean, one, I recognize the value that I got from seeing people that had gone through that, because there's always somebody that you can kind of identify with, and then there's also another part of it too. Frankly, from where I'm at, that as a more senior officer, as a senior executive within DoD. As a physician, these are positions where people look at and go, well, you don't need that. I mean, you guys don't need something like this. I mean, you can handle that. And that's not true. I mean, I think everyone has to understand that the stigma that is involved in this keeps folks from seeking the help and support that they can have. And sometimes that's why, in my opinion, folks turn to prescription medications and other forms of self-treatment, because you can do it in quiet, in solitude. And that's probably the worst thing to do, right? Is to be alone and alone with your own self-treatment. I think that's probably the most damaging thing to do. And I think ways that we can try to strip away that stigma and say, you know what, we're human, and we're dealing with inhuman issues or issues that challenge our humanity. I think that making it clear that all of us are susceptible to that is very important. I've certainly seen emergency medicine physicians, senior officers, senior executives who didn't do that and took their lives, frankly, and we never knew there was a problem because it wasn't evident, and we don't expect there to be a problem there, but everyone has their demons.
What would you say to someone who may be watching or listening to this podcast and is struggling with some of these demons because of what they've seen or experienced? What would you say to them about Warfighter?
You're not alone. I mean, I think that was really the biggest thing for me. You're not alone. But you do have to be willing to take that step. You have to be willing to want to put that first foot out, and there is a little bit of a trust. It's kind of like a trust fall, right? You have to put the foot out and trust that folks are going to have you, and so that's the toughest first step. But once, from what I've seen, once folks do take that step and come to Warfighter and find that community, because it really does become a family after that. I still talk to folks that I went to Evo 27 with. I still get monthly calls and check in with people that I was there with, and I still text with other mentors that were either there when I was there or have become closer friends and family through my times coming back here. And I think that's really important. It grounds me. And it also helps me to know that I'm going to be there for them too, because I am somebody who likes to serve others, who likes to be there for other people, and so in a way that serves a need that I have as well, to be able to be there for someone else that might have that need, because you never know. I mean, you never know when something you say, something little you do, meets someone where they're at, and touches a nerve that you didn't know was an issue. And I've had people come up to me and say, I haven't had the ability to express what you just said, but that makes so much sense in my life, and that's great. I mean, I've gotten that from other people, so to be able to give that back is wonderful.
Well, thank you for sharing your story with us today, and thank you for your service to Warfighter Advance and your service to our country.
And thank you as well. I appreciate you and all that you've done. It means a tremendous amount to all of us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This has been another episode of the Warfighter Advance podcast, Coming Home at Last. Thank you for joining us for the Warfighter Advance Coming Home at Last podcast. Warfighter Advance envisions a world where warfighters are fully restored through a non-medical process. To achieve that vision, Warfighter Advance sponsors 6 7-day training sessions each year to which veterans and active duty service members can apply, and for no cost to the warfighter. If you or those you know are struggling with issues related to reintegration, please contact us through our website. We are dedicated to lead the way so that every warfighter has the information, tools, and support they need to successfully reintegrate. Until next time, this is Michael Arndt on behalf of Warfighter Advance.